Hi, everybody. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about a book that I just read called Bone Black by Bell Hooks. Now, this book is about an African-American little girl growing up in a poor, very segregated African-American community in the South. She is one of several children to a mother and a father. She shares a room with 3 or 4 other little girls of her sisters, and her mother stays home and takes care of them while the father goes to work to provide for the family. We learn very early on in the story that it is an autobiography about the author, Bell Brooks, who is a feminist and a writer. And we learn that she, throughout the story, struggles with finding her place, not only in the Black community, but in her own family. She is very much seen as a troublemaker because she is a free spirit. She says her mind. She likes to write poetry. She's very curious about the world and likes to ask questions, and oftentimes she is punished for these questions because of the way that she has been taught that African American women should behave in the community, in the world, and especially in her own family. There's a section in the book where she asks her mother a question about why women are the way that they are in her community, and her father slaps her. And she looks at her mother, and her mother has this face of, she's very proud that her husband has taken up for her and has disciplined Belle for asking a very simple, not threatening or offensive question. There are several parts in the book where similar things happen, where she is punished or yelled at for being curious or for asking questions about why her community is the way that it is, why she has to go to this school, why she can't play with the white kids across the street. And we learn, the reader learns how race impacts this family of these Black children and these Black parents in this Black community, because they're very poor. They don't have a lot of clothes. The father works one job, and it takes him years to get a better job to where they're able to leave the poor community and go into another still segregated Black community outside of the rich white community, the main town there in their state. They don't have a lot of things for entertainment. They don't have a lot of toys and extravagant things to play with. She mentions at one point in her story that one of the only things that they do for entertainment is just to drive around in the family car once a week. So it's interesting to see how she takes all of these external influences, and she turns it into these beautiful poems and works of literature that she doesn't ever share with anybody in her family, because it's such a private, sacred space that she has created for herself, where she can go and she can write and she can do the things that she feels like she should be able to do, even though as a society and in her family, women, especially Black women, are supposed to obey their husbands and keep their mouths quiet and speak only when spoken to. So I think that I would definitely recommend the book to anybody, especially any little girl who struggles with identity or comes from a place of being unsure if they should pursue their dreams, because very often through the story you see how she struggles with finding her place in the world and in school and at home and in her own perception of herself. She questions, am I weird? Am I strange? Am I troublesome? Am I bad? Because I want to write and I want to see the world and I want to question everything, the way that things are, and why. She often asks herself, why can't I do this? Why can't I do these things? Why can't Black women be more than just a wife to maybe not a not so good husband? at one point in the story, she ends up with her own room because her brother moves out. And even though she feels like she was only given the room because it was a way to get her away from everybody else, because it's in a kind of a hidden part of the house. It's in the basement. It's in the lower part of the house, in the corner, tucked away, where she can be by herself. She loves it. She takes this, she turns it into like her own sacred temple where she's able to write her poems, and she can read all of her books from all of the famous literary authors from her time in the 60s. She uses the space to explore her sexuality, to explore her ideas, her thoughts. She talks to God a lot. She asks all the questions that she's too afraid to ask out loud. And I think that's something that a lot of girls can relate to, especially because growing up in a house where you're not allowed to question anything, especially your